Hey, it's Ben from the Warehouse Underground podcast. Running out of space in your facility. It is one of the worst things that can happen. Completely slows down your op. But the customer doesn't care. That's your problem, right? But it doesn't have to be. There is a solution out there that can be a shelter in the storm until it blows over. And that can come from Warehouse on Wheels. They deliver on-demand storage trailers when you need them that flex with your operation. And with locations all across North America, there's a very good chance that they can help you too. No long-term leases for a new facility, no delays, no overpaying for space you don't need, no CapEx, just simple, smart storage delivered right to your door. So don't let your dock and your aisles become jam-packed with pallets wrecking your operation. No, let WOW be your side storage solution while you go back to focusing on mainline operations. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 26 at the Warehouse Underground podcast, Real Talk for warehouse, DC, and FC professionals of all levels around the globe. I'm Ben, the host of the show. Very cool guest on the show today. His name's Mike Coers. He's a senior VP of Managed Logistics at Kinimatic. Now, in the supply chain world, in the warehousing world, at some point, companies usually expand and grow. And with that comes a bigger footprint. But how do you know where you should go? Where should you put your second, your third, your fourth facility? How do you manage it? How much inventory goes there? What are the savings on the logistics side? All these questions start to happen when companies begin to grow and expand. And there's a lot of consulting firms out there that companies will go to advise them in how to do this. But that's right exactly where Kinimatic is. And so I'm very excited to talk with Mike because they're a relatively newcomer to the industry, but they're offering a fantastic solution to help companies just do that. So they're using the tech-driven approach, combining advanced software, expansive integrations, an experienced service team, and a nationwide logistics network to deliver dynamic, omnichannel visibility, control, and scalable growth. And that's exactly what companies are looking to have help with when they come into this arena. So happy to have Mike on the show. I'll bring him on the stage right now. Mike, welcome to the Warehouse Underground podcast. Thank you very much for coming on. How are you today, sir?
Great, Ben. Thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate it. I need to get you to be my intro guy everywhere I go, man. That's fantastic. Great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. For a fee, I'll teach them how to do it. I will come in there and teach them how to do it. Right? Just read the teleprompter. No, I'm just kidding. So I talked a little bit in the intro about Kinimatic and Tease-It, but before we get into that, can you just talk about yourself? What's your background in the distribution and supply chain world?
Yeah, dating myself a little bit, but certainly I've spent 25 plus years in supply chain. I mean, I literally started from the bottom. I was loading trailers at UPS when I got out of the Marine Corps. Obviously, the Marine Corps shapes a lot of your leadership style and work ethic, and so learned a ton while I was there, and met some great friends along the way. Some that I'm still very close with today, but I'll skip a few decades, but ultimately, between UPS and FedEx, my last role was running one of their worldwide e-com sales teams. So very ingratiated into operations there, the Fortune 500 world, sales, commercial, and then really working on that final mile approach of what they were solving over there. Was fortunate enough to pivot to another company called Flex, which was very much in a startup mode, and was leading a lot of their channel partnership division, e-commerce fulfillment, and helping build out transportation with them. Very much one of those companies that kind of pioneered that Airbnb of warehousing space, as they would describe it, right?
Yeah.
And after several years there, was fortunate enough to get a call from the Kellaway family about a company that they were trying to grow and scale called Kinimatic, which again we'll go into, and I think you did a great intro, kind of what we saw. But my background is really kind of all things from end to end, right? I have played in the final mile space, middle mile space, warehousing, all things within the four walls, inventory management, network optimization. I mean, I like to almost coin myself as a supply chain nerd.
Yeah.
My joy is really in kind of uncovering new ways that I can help companies unlock new efficiencies, new optimizations, or make suggestions, just given my background and how long I've been doing this, of how we can make the supply chain better for these brands and these organizations we're working with.
Yeah, there's definitely two distinct realms when it comes to distribution that I've seen in my experience. And one is sort of what's happening inside the four walls, how you run your operation in there. But then there's the outside the four walls and the bigger type footprint thing. And sometimes distribution leaders, as they go up the chain in their career, they'll end up being involved in both. And I personally have been involved in both. And there's some similarities, but there's a lot of differences there too. And so I think this is going to be a great podcast for people that may move up into projects like that as they go. So we mentioned the Kinimatic, right? So you're at Kinimatic now. Just what's Kinimatic all about? I mean, in your own words, what's it all about? How is it used? How are users using your product and your services and your company, and who are they? I mean, who's kind of your bread and butter type customer?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to clarify a little bit. I think, again, um, you know, essentially what we're trying to do is change the moniker of what you think about when you think about a 4PL, right? And
Yeah.
so we really like to look at ourselves as what we call a next gen 4PL by layering in AI into a control tower that we built that really provides logistics as a service in a platform, right? So taking
Yeah.
all these disparate systems, being able to plug into existing infrastructure, layer in fractional warehousing, which you articulated earlier, we have 150 million square foot of space across US and Canada of all different disciplines, and then bolting on middle mile and final mile capabilities. The goal of this is to not just provide visibility, not just give you graphs on a screen that then you have to go log into other systems and deploy, actionable insights into. The desire of this is to really bring everything into one, connected into marketplaces for e-com customers, leverage the OMSs and the TMSs of the different brands that are in more manufacturing and B2B, and really try to create one unified control tower, one centralized nervous system that allows you to really manage and manipulate your inventory across all mediums from port to porch. And so
Yeah.
the typical users that we see are CPG, retail, manufacturing, brands that are looking for flexibility and scale. Our platform allows you to connect into that. And instead of adding one more thing to the layer of tech, or adding one more thing that you have to monitor or manage, and then go to another thing to go and execute it on. Our goal is to try to bring that all into one.
Yeah. And I hear that a lot. I mean, now people sometimes will have software fatigue, right? Like, oh my gosh, another bolt on or another thing that we have to monitor. And a lot of organizations just have tons. It's just daisy chain, right? It seems they have all these different things. And so I think there's fatigue on that. But I mean, how did you arrive at that as a solution, and how have your customers taken that? Because it seems like what you're describing is a little bit like a one-stop shop. Now, it's not an ERP, right? So there's the ERP and there's the WMS, but outside of that, though, it seems like a one-stop shop to me. Is that a fair statement? And how has that been received in the world of additional program fatigue, if you will?
Yeah, no, I mean, duly noted, right? I think that was the premise. That was why we built what we built, was because,
Yeah.
again, as you described, these tech stacks over the last, especially 5 years, I think have gotten really, really bloated. You've got folks that are literally using maybe 60% of the capacity or capabilities of what their tech that they deployed. It's a funny stat too, that 64% of the enterprise brands that exist today are still managing their inventory in Excel.
Yeah.
So the irony of that statement, giving all the tech stack kind of development and the software as a service has become something that I think a lot of people tend to get numb to, right? What I think we have done differently is that we're not adding to that tech stack. We're actually unifying and taking all of those
Yep.
different systems and then bringing them into one unified control. So it does add to it. It complements it in a way that
Yep.
most bolt-ons are siloed. We take all those silos and knock those walls down, and then create a synergy amongst all those different platforms to again provide kind of one unified visual that allows you to then really look at your supply chain holistically, taking all these different data systems in place, and then
Yep.
allowing you to make smarter decisions and strategy of how you're going to complement that and make moves in your supply chain going forward.
Yeah, I like the point that you brought up about the software, the system, or the technology not being fully utilized by the companies. I remember one time I went through a software update with a company that was bringing lots of new functionality, right? Like lots of new power, new things that we really could take advantage of. But because people weren't familiar with it, they just sort of reverted back to what they had before. And they just said, well, we want this new system to just do what our old system did, but look nicer. type,
Mhm.
type thing. And so there's a lot of that. So I appreciate the approach that you have of kind of bringing it all into one and simplifying it and unifying that. And I suspect that you will get much more adoption when it comes to those type things. Now, let me ask you this question. I mean, and I alluded to this in the intro, but when you're talking about the type of growth and expansion at this level, there's many moving parts to this, and usually for companies, there's a lot on the line. I mean, there's a lot at stake when they do these type of things. These are big investments and big moves, and so that's why I know of a lot of companies that will use and go out and seek consulting firms who are experts in this or they have experience in this just to come in and guide them through the experience, because maybe the company doesn't have the bandwidth, or maybe they don't have the people on staff that have this knowledge or ability, so they rely on consulting firms. But it seems like Kinimatic is not really, you're not a consulting firm, right? So what differentiates you from these types of consulting firms that a lot of times companies will go with? Because the knock on consulting firms is always they're there until they're not, right? They're in and then they're gone, and you live with whatever's left. So what's the difference?
So I do like to think of us as consultants. Like I do consider, you leverage the decades of experience I have in supply chain. Several on my team have decades of experience. I mean, we've brought in some of the best and brightest here at Kinimatic at all different levels of different departments that support all the functionality of what we drive with the brands that we serve. And so I think one of the big differences is that, for one, the platform itself is something that is deployed, and not just a PowerPoint that we drop on you. We don't just do some research and then say, here you
Yeah.
go. Thanks so much. We're off to the next person that
Yeah.
hired us to go consult. I like to think of us as same side of the table with the brands that we work with, right? And we're very much ingratiated in a way where we want what they want, right? Which is success, driving costs down, finding more efficiencies. The platform does a lot of that consulting for you real time through the AI
Yep.
capabilities that we have baked into it. So I like to call it, like a fractional chief supply chain officer at your fingertips. The
Yeah.
ability for it to take all these different data sources that you and I come from an era where you used to have teams that would go figure all that
Yep.
data out, bring that back to you, and then you would go make strategic decisions based off of that. These days, the ability for you to get that information quicker, that ability to analyze it quicker, and how it's evolving the supply chain departments that we work with, from those data analysts to now being more strategic advisors of which paths we should go. This is not something that stops once you deploy our system. We're very much in tune with the brand and working together and applying, different ideologies and strategies as we go. So one of the really cool things about the platform is that as it learns more about what's going on in your supply chain, think about how complementary that is to a quarterly business review with one of my account managers, right? Now we're sitting down talking real time what we know can be impacted versus what somebody thinks they could impact and what they're assuming with your business. Now they're looking at everything under the hood. That's a much different conversation. So I look at us like a consulting firm on steroids, right? The ability now for us to leverage this platform, leverage these solutions, be able to deploy the answers that are needed to go and solve these pain points through our platform, through the different partners that we have, whether that's in middle mile, warehousing, or final mile. That to me really does kind of set us apart from what a traditional consulting firm would do. And, look, I think we're just in a new day and age now through what AI's capabilities are and through what, tech connectivity can allow us to do. This is something that you can deploy. And then again, through traditional means, you used to have to go stand up a new integration if you wanted a new partner. You used to have to form a new relationship to go and pivot away from an existing relationship that isn't working anymore. With us, the dashboard in the car stays the same. We just make the car different of whatever it is that you need to go and solve whatever it is that the supply chain gods are throwing at you this month, next month, or the following.
Yeah, and I'll say too, and I hope like when we did our exploratory call, you showed me some simulations of the dashboard that you use and the software that's there, and it was very impressive. And so I've never seen a consulting firm that comes in and has that type of product for their customer. Like usually it's a PowerPoint presentation, a big PDF file, you read through all this, but that thing is very impressive. And I hope if people are considering you and considering utilizing you, that they'll get a first hand up close look at that thing, because that was awesome. I really love that. I wish we could show it on the show, but fantastic. I hope people explore that.
I appreciate that. Look, and it's
Yeah,
customizable, right? So
it is.
instead of you just being locked into only seeing certain
It's awesome.
metrics that we want to show you, having that ability to kind of adapt and evolve with whomever it is needing to have access to that platform. So we also look at it, we built it for the user. We built it for different roles within the supply chain department of a company. And so a director of fulfillment is going to want a completely different look than what VP of procurement needs to see, or what the chief supply chain officer wants to look at a 50,000 foot view. So having those capabilities to kind of, again, tailor this thing, customize it. But once you're in, and once we've integrated with all these different things, then the ability to really become agile and adaptable, it just becomes exponential at that point. It's just that to me, I've been doing this a long time. That's what gets me up in the morning and gets really excited about what we're bringing to the market and what we're solving.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, having it customizable like that, you're right. It's like reminds me of growing up with brothers and sisters, and you would go on a road trip and you try to stop to go eat. You know what I mean? Like, and every person wanted to go to a different restaurant. They wanted a different thing. I think you sometimes see that with companies. The warehouse guy wants something different than the chief operating officer wants something different than the buyer and the CEO. Like everybody has their different things. So if you can get them all kind of pulling the same boat there, I think you're in very good shape. So that's a great functionality, I think. Now, let me ask this question about shipping times, because one of the big reasons why companies move or expand, say they go out to the West Coast, if they're an East Coast company, or vice versa, is because they want to get closer to their customers. So they want to shrink their shipping time. And more importantly, they want to save money on doing that. That's the whole reason. But it might not always be that simple, right? And so can you talk to us a little bit about the requirement for the system intelligence, the visibility, the tracking, the measuring, the predictability to know, hey, are you really maximizing your savings on shipping like you thought, or are you not? Because that can sometimes be a little bit counterintuitive, and I think people might miss it.
Yeah. So my experience with companies that are kind of at that inflection point, I like to call it, where they're kind of hitting that hockey stick point, right? Where they're like,
Yeah.
man, we're getting to this point where we're bursting at the seams in maybe a 1 DC model, or heck, even a 2 DC model in
Yep.
optimized in the wrong locations. I mean, either of those scenarios lends itself to costing the organization a ton of money on their P&L. And the
Yeah.
reason why it did, and this is just again stats that I've accrued over the years of doing this for so long, but 40% of the overall supply chain line item cost comes from the final mile alone.
Yep.
So if the final mile isn't optimized, if you're going the longest points of distance, if you're crossing streams across the country to send packages to the end consumer, then that is where, again, it's going to hurt the most on your financials. And so what we
Yep.
like to do is, again, take a look at, I mean, we have the ability, we have this baked into our platform. We have a network optimization tool that, again, takes your shipping data, your distribution list, takes your shipping costs, whatever services you're using, and analyzes the existing warehouse footprints, and then starts to analyze what that would look like in a best 1, 2, 3 DC model. If,
Yeah.
let's say, for instance, I'm working with an enterprise account that has their own fixed warehouses, they bought their own facilities, they're running them, they don't need that in that way, those aren't moving, then I take those and then I add a complement to what would be best served in that scenario. Once you start to go north of about 6 or 7 DCs, it doesn't make any more sense. You're now
Yeah.
talking fractional numbers of impact on both speed and cost. But if I can take a company in year one, what would have traditionally taken them year 3 or 5 to get to go bi-coastal or to go into a 3 DC setup, I mean, for one, it takes them to prime-like experience immediately. It changes their shopping cart abandonment because now they're giving off a different perception of a premier shipping experience of 2 days or less.
Yep.
Damages are less, the final mile is reduced. It just starts to waterfall from there, all the different impacts that you can have. And so it's nice to have that baked into the platform so that brands can take a look at these things and kind of sandbox them in a lot of way, and then see what would that financial impact look like by me being able to take this to a second, third distribution node, or
Yep.
maybe my current setup is not ideal based off my footprint. Where should I be based off of that? And so our goal
Yeah.
is to just arm people with the best intelligence, the best information possible. Granted, that comes from good data in and good data out. But as long as we have that data coming in and it's solid, we can make some really great suggestions from there. And then again, instead of you having to go and establish a new partnership, do a new integration with another WMS, have to go and explore how you would do that, all this is baked into working with Kinimatic and our ability to help utilize the relationships we built and then the platform that we have them using.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, it's always exciting when you're at a company when you are growing and expanding like that. You mentioned the hockey stick, but there's always a certain level of trepidation and anxiety, I think, that the ops leaders have. The sales team, they love it, but the ops team that is trying to make all this happen, they're happy and they're excited, but they think, oh my gosh, we're still using Excel.
Yeah.
So this is really stressing us out. So things like this can make that much smoother. Now, we talked a little bit about this earlier in the show, and speaking about your expansion, and everything you've got. And I saw this on your website. You've got 150 million square feet of warehouse space across 220 sites in North America. I mean, that's big. That's a big footprint. Are you owning and operating these directly, which I don't really think you are, or are they part of your sort of your 3PL partner network that you've got integrated throughout the country?
The latter. So yeah, we're a non-asset company, right? So we don't own any of these facilities. I think that's what makes what we've built so attractive, is again having kind of an agnostic approach to what is the right solution for the problem. And so
Yeah.
our ability to really, again, back to standing same side of the table with the brand that we're working with, to go out and find the right solutions. What is it that's going to make the most sense for their business and their
Yeah.
customers that they're trying to serve? That's our ultimate goal. So we're very fortunate and very lucky to have the partners that we have that have made our network up. But I think it kind of ties back into some of the trepidations you were just talking about on the last question, where a lot of these ops leaders, they have to go outsource this to a 3PL. You've got to sign a 3, 5, 7-year commitment. To go stand this up yourself, you got to go raise capex or borrow money at an extremely high interest rate, and it's just a lot of more long-term play when you go that path versus, again, what I think the macroeconomic climate of supply chain has really started to dictate, which is I need to be able to make moves, and I need to make moves fast. I need to, in 6 months, I may need to pivot because weather in Southeast or port strike in Northeast, whatever that may be, I need to be able to maneuver and manage my inventory in a much more dynamic way. And so, I think you're spot on. I think the exciting thing about our 3PL network is that all the disciplines are on the table. There's others that are in this space that, again, deploy maybe their own warehouse management system, or their functionality of what they integrate into only goes so far. Sometimes you can only do this much of what is offered in the full tool belt of what a 3PL can truly offer. And so with our integrated system and with our ability to tap into or plug into the existing kind of four walls and what they do best, all of my operator partners within the Kinimatic network, their strengths become my strengths. And so they become the strengths to the brand. So now I can go and attack any discipline that exists out there, whether that's high flow e-com fulfillment, big bulky solar, moving things around, transloading and drayage, cold chain, bonded, the list goes on of what we can now start to deploy. And now that becomes a Swiss Army knife for the brands that we work with, because now I can offer them whatever it is that they need, whatever curveball gets thrown at them, we can go help attack it together.
Yeah. And you mentioned a point there, which I think is happening throughout the entire supply chain now. And that is, people always felt the need to be dynamic and flexible and modular and those type things, but now it's even more. And you see that inside the four walls of facilities too. Static racking is coming out of form, and all these modular, moldable forms of storage and racking are happening because people are realizing everything's so fluid and dynamic now. It's much less predictable than it used to be inside the four walls and really throughout the entire supply chain. So people are looking for the tools and the technology to kind of help meet and provide them the resource they need to act how they need to act in the supply chain and 2025. So I love that. I think that's a fantastic piece of value. Now, let me shift gears a little bit with this. So a lot of companies, organizations out there will use more than one method of fulfillment. So they may use another provider to fulfill their orders for them, i.e. an Amazon, FBA. A lot of organizations will use that. But sometimes integrating with them can be a little bit cumbersome. But what's it like with Kinimatic? How is Kinimatic able to integrate or not integrate with these other parties?
So most of them, we have 400 pre-built integrations today. So we're extremely fortunate that we've already got a lot of these connections made, whether that's to leading ERP systems, leading OMS systems, all the major WMSs that exist today. We've even started integrating into some custom WMSs, right? Where these guys have done their own homegrown, home built thing. But as long as there's an EDI or an API connection, ultimately, we can connect relatively quickly. Now, the ones that are part of that pre-built integration, we're talking a matter of weeks to get this thing launched and loaded. So that's really what this is right? The ability for us to have that speed to help them deploy fast, do what they need to do. And then, as this continues to evolve in the relationship, the goal is to start bringing in the other systems that they need to bring on board, and then start bringing all these different data sources into one. But from an integration standpoint, I think we're one of the leaders, I think, in the marketplace today with a functionality that is really unprecedented in the ability to connect not only on the warehouse side, the brands, order taking side, but also being able to connect into financials and then also connect into omni-channel marketplaces. That to me is also the really exciting thing for e-commerce shippers. There's a lot of we've heard omni-channel forever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
A new term I've come up with here. But, omni-channel, a lot of times when I meet with these brands, they're really only selling on one or two marketplaces, Amazon
Okay.
usually being one of them. But man, there is a lot out there. And I think there's a lot out there that either A, they don't know about, or B, as we talked about before, there's fear of change or trying to
Yep.
add something new to the mix, or what is this going to entail? So that ability for us to help them plug into these new channels of revenue, these new ways to sell their inventory, uh, that's the part that, again, I think really kind of changes how we're approaching the marketplace versus how others are doing it, because the goal is to kind of high tide rise all ships, right? We want them
Yeah.
to sell on more marketplaces. We want inventory to flow faster, because if that's going to happen for them, that's going to be good for their brand. They're going to continue to scale. Likewise with Kinimatic, we're going to be expanding to new facilities and trying to create a better experience for their customers.
Yeah, and I think it just further speaks to what we talked about earlier. Hey, this is not a barrier to you. This is not a problem. More business you get, the more fluid and the more dynamic we become, right? The easier it is for you to scale. Not cumbersome, not hard, easier. So complex, no problem, right? We're running through here and simplify that for you, and everybody's looking to do that. So, but inside of Kinematic, though, for a second, just to going inside your company and not with your customers, like how's it set up? Right, like what's the what's the org structure like? How do you operate, and what happens when a customer decides to work with you? What is their experience like from inside your team?
It's very hands-on. I mean, we're again, when I say same side of the table, we want to be in the same room. We want to be talking the same language. I think, initially what we try to do is really do a deep dive discovery call and really understand what does current look like? What does maybe past, present, and future look like for the client, right? What would great look like if you could have a solution like this at your fingertips? So much of what we're doing right now, Ben, is educating, right? We're just showing people
Yeah.
that this even exists, that this is possible, that you have the capabilities to use something like this. And so much of that initially is just getting them on board with understanding that there is this new unlock that can happen for them
Yep.
on a supply chain solution side. I think from an org structure standpoint, right, we really like to kind of break this down into the different mediums that are going to manage a project like this. And so commercially, you'll have that one kind of point of contact that you'll be going through, that it does a lot of the interaction with the brands. We've got a tech team that is just world class at what they do, and jumps in with the tech team over with the brand that we work with, works on the integration kind of framework, gets all of that set up, and then helps train them on utilizing the platform, how to leverage the AI. And again, not something that we just drop the bomb and leave. It's one of those things that continuous, like as we add
We're in there.
to this, we're going to be giving them kind of that quarterly update, like, hey, these three things just came on board. Let us show you how to use it. We have a great operator team that we built here of, again, guys that are just amazing in the industry. They've been doing this a long time. So between our VP of network that manages those operator relationships for us and really kind of make sure that we're staying close with the strengths and the evolution of the different operator partners that we work with. We've got several that are bringing robotics and automation into their four walls. Our ability to leverage that and start to now take that to market and help the brands that we serve in different mediums, it's just only going to get better. And so
Yep.
that, coupled with our operator team behind the scenes that just make sure that launch day goes well, that continuous, checking in on KPIs, SLAs are being met, making sure that the operators are doing what they say they're going to do. Eventually, we're going to have this thing baked out to start having kind of an operator grading network, right? Where we start who's great at this, who's not great at this, just so that we can make better suggestions to the brands that we serve. But, again, it's an entire team here comprised of supply chain veterans. We've all been doing this a long time. all spearheaded by Chris Kellaway, who comes from 4 generations of supply chain, family, and responsible for building some massive supply chain organizations that have done amazing things. We're really excited about kind of the precipice of where we're at right now and what we're bringing to the market, and the more that we can start to serve. I think this is going to be one of those things that we all look back at as kind of a tipping point for what the whole idea around a 4PL kind of comes around.
Yeah, and it to kind of put a bow on it, I follow you on LinkedIn, and because there's cool stuff about you and Kinimatic on there, and I love this quote that you had. I'll bring it up on the stage. Your network shouldn't react; it should adapt. Think less like a supply chain and more like a commerce engine with dynamic reflexes. I mean, to me, Mike, that just sums up 2025 supply chain and operations right there. So to me, when I look at that and I read that, I think if this is the guiding principle of kind of the guts in Kinimatic and what it's trying to accomplish, I think you're right on target with what people are looking for. I mean, do you see it that way, or are you staying true to that statement that you made?
Think we have to, man. I mean, look, at the end of the day, last year, 37 global events impacted supply chain. That's
Yeah.
up from 17 the year before. Tell me that this is going in a different direction. It's not. It's only going this way. So it feels like every month, these supply chain executives and the folks that are tasked with some of the largest line item spends on a P&L statement for their companies are all being asked to play chess on what feels like a board that's made of sand. I mean, it's just the ever evolving, whether it's tariffs, whether it's weather, whether it's, port strikes, whatever it may be, just the amount of curveballs that supply chain leaders are being faced with now. I think it's the perfect timing for a system like what we built, and the ability to connect all these things from X, Y, and Z and give the functionality and the capabilities layered with AI to make smarter decisions. I think it's going to really evolve what we look at from a supply chain leader's kind of job description, right? Because
Yeah.
now you're going to be able to do a lot more with less, and the capability to leverage a company like us to help manage a lot of this behind the scenes stuff for you, while you can go focus on the bigger picture items that are going to drive revenue, drive a better experience, and drive costs down for your organization.
Yeah, and that's the new age, right? I tell this to managers all the time. I say, dealing with contingencies and dealing with curveballs and dealing with the flexibility is the job, right? Like that is part of it. That's what's expected. So you can't just say, well, it's not my fault, right? Like something unforeseen happens, so it's not my fault. No, like that's how you need to operate. You need to adjust and be dynamic with that. And so tools and resources and visibility and technology that helps with that is going to win the day, I think, in 2025 and beyond, because I don't see it going away, Mike. Right. Like I don't see the current situation changing anytime soon. In fact, it may get even more dynamic and more flexible as we go. So last question. So you're on LinkedIn. I've been to the Kinimatic website. It's very cool, by the way. Very good, very professional, very in depth with what you offer. But where can people find out more about you and Kinimatic, and what do you have exciting on the horizon for maybe the rest of this year, but 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, so I'm going to be at Inland JOC next week. So I got a long travel week. I'm doing Chicago, and then
Nice.
meeting with one of our operator partners out in Connecticut at the end of the week. We'll be at Inc. 5000 Awards Gala. We were one of the 2025 fastest growing private companies, and so very, very awesome to receive that award. A lot of hard work from our Kinimatic team that went into that. So very excited to kind of celebrate that, feather in the cap for sure. I've
Definitely.
got one more that I'm going to go to, the Beauty Expo at the end of the year, but really 2026, man, I kind of look at that as like the year for Kinimatic. I'm really
Yeah.
excited to kind of take this platform to the next level. I think through mediums like this and opportunities like what you're giving us here today, and just the ability to continue to get the word out and explain to
Yep.
people what we do and what we're trying to solve. The common theme I kind of get back is like, why wouldn't I have this? Or this feels like
Yeah.
a no-brainer to me, which I love that. That's exactly why what we built and why we built it was to make this a very easy decision on why you would want to incorporate something like this into your supply chain solutions. And so,
Yeah.
just scaling, brother, just getting bigger,
Yeah.
trying to take this thing into another gear. Excited about, what 26 will kind of hold for, an industry perspective, a market perspective. I think all of us would love to get out of 25 and move on, right? It's been kind of a repeat of 2023. So, just a new year, and hopefully just continuing to scale this thing and make it, a common brand that people know and know what we
Yep.
sell.
Cool. Awesome, Mike. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, my friend. It was great. I really hope people do search you out because I really do believe that you've got a great solution that can be awesome for people out there. Like you said, I think people really go, how did I live without this? Right. Like, why would I not have this? This is a no brainer for what I need to do in order to scale and run my operation. So appreciate you coming on the show and best of luck to you and Kinimatic and beyond. And sure, I'll see you around on the LinkedIn streets, as they say.
I appreciate that, man. Please, anybody that wants to get a hold of me, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very accessible. Or please go to sales@kinimatic.com and we'll jump in and would love to show a demo of what we built. And
Yep.
yeah, man, just appreciate the forum and love the podcast. Love what you're growing over there. And
Thanks, man.
can't wait to continue to keep supporting you, brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And check out that demo. Like he said, it's a very cool demo. You will not be disappointed when you see that. Thanks, Mike. Take care, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye. All right, that concludes today's show. Thanks again for Mike Coers of Kinimatic for coming on. Really cool stuff that they're doing. I mean, what I say, check out the demo of the software that they can provide. They can really help you scale your operation when you get to that point and doing that. So you will want to have them in your hip pocket when you go through that. Trust me on that. So as the Warehouse Underground goes, like I always say, please sign up for the community. We have 212 members that have signed up. We just did a very cool live event last night, and we got more live events that are planned in the future. To be a part of the live event, you have to sign up for the community, which is free, by the way. So the live events are a very cool chance to network and learn and pick up some knowledge for some people. Check out the Tiger Team show, which is the other podcast that I do with my co-host Jordan. It's all about things that go on in warehousing and distribution, but with a wit, humor, and sarcasm slant. I think you guys will get some funny comic relief out of that show if you listen to that. And as this podcast goes, thank you again for tuning in. I will see you next week for podcast number 27. Thank you. God bless.